Dumb Husky and his white cat Shizun. Chapter 64. This venerable one tells Shidi a story. Moran looked to the direction that the voice came from only to see its source waddling unsteadily in a little jog from the stone steps of the residence. It was a small child, 3 or 4 years old, a bamboo pinwheel in hand as he bounced toward Chu Gongzi. He was dressed simply, with a jade pendant hanging around his neck, along with a lock of entrusted name for good fortune and a protection amulet of red silk, and looked every bit like his little Shidi, just smaller. Note: a lock-shaped jewelry worn around the neck. It's a tradition where parents take their 1-month-old child to cultivators or a temple to be given an entrusted name so that the child can receive the protection of the god/Buddha and won't die young and will have good fortunes. The lock represents locking the child to life, by the power of the god/Buddha. Now Moran truly knew the reason those riders were gossiping. He couldn't help muttering, "Shidi, you and Shizun are both from Linen, and Shizun even has the name Chu. Do you think this Chu family from 200 years ago might have been your ancestors and that you two might be distant relatives? Seems pretty likely to me." Chu Wanning said nothing, staring at the father and son. He never knew his own origins and didn't remember much of his childhood either. Could this Chu Gongzi really be his ancestor? He was still pondering when Moran reached the front of the line. Chu Gongzi was just about to hand Moran a talisman when he looked up to see an unfamiliar face. He paused minutely before smiling gently, "Is it your first time here?" His voice was mellow and refined, a world apart from Chu Wanning's ice-cold severity. Why yet?" To be suddenly spoken to in such an open and friendly manner by someone who looked just like Shizun got Moran feeling somewhat at a loss, and he had to scramble for his bearings. The Governor Gongzi smiled, "My name is Chu Sun, may I ask your name?" My name is M Moran." "Where does Mo Gongzi hail from?" Really far, far from Shu." Chu Sun Gongzi was gentle and amiable, but Moran just couldn't shake the feeling that he could see right through him. Chu Sun agreed with a smile. "That is indeed quite far." He paused, gaze shifting downwards to Chu Wanning, surprise showing on his refined features. "And this is?" "My name is Yasini." Chu Wanning supplied. Moran pulled him closer and pat him on the head, forcing a smile. "This is my little brother. Doesn't look like me, but looks just like you." Maybe because there was an imminent battle and more pressing matters, and Chu Sun didn't have time to dwell on it, or maybe because he was merely part of an illusion and couldn't react much to something that didn't belong in the illusion to start with. Whatever the case may be, he stared at Chu Wanning for a while with scrunched brows, then simply handed them each a talisman. "You are our guests from afar, especially in these difficult times, so please accept these talismans. And if you have no other plans, then please stay for a couple of days." Moran said, "I heard about it already, that Gongzi intends to bring the people in the city to Putwo. And what are the talismans for?" "These are spirit-quenching talismans." Chu Sun explained, "They can conceal the aura of the living when worn on the body." Moran understood at once. I get it. If the aura of the living is sealed, then the ghosts won't be able to tell the living from the dead. That way, even if we walk right past any ghosts, they'll just be too confused to do anything." Chu Sun smiled, "Precisely." Seeing that he was quite busy, Moran didn't want to take up more of his time with questions, so he thanked Chu Sun Gongzi and pulled his little Shidi along to the side. The two of them found a spot by the wall to sit down. Moran turned toward Chu Wanning to see his little Shidi spacing out at that talisman, and asked, "What are you thinking about?" "I was thinking that this is a solid plan." Chu Wanning said quietly, still deep in thought. "So then, just what happened, that they couldn't make it out in the end? Is it not in the books?" Chu Wanning said, "This 200-year-old disaster is covered in the most detail in the Linen records, and even that book only has a few lines of text about it." Moran asked, "And what does it say?" "Linen was besieged, the situation therein unknown. By the time the resistance army broke through, corpses strewed the roads and the vast majority of houses were empty. Of the approximately 100 people of the governor's residence and the 740 common people, none survived. Moran said, "Nothing about how they died?" "Nothing. Linan City was completely surrounded and hardly anyone survived. The feathered tribe saved a few lucky survivors later on, but they rarely involved themselves in mortal matters, so they saw things differently from how we would. As far as they were concerned, the truth of what happened wasn't all that important, and even if they knew, they still wouldn't talk about it unless there was some particular need to." Chu Wanning paused before continuing, "But, since they're setting off in 2 days anyway, we'll find out what happened soon enough. In the meantime, we might as well walk around and see if we can find some clues." The two of them tucked their spirit-quenching talismans away for safekeeping and were just getting up to leave when there was a sudden burst of footsteps, followed by a tug on Chu Wanning's sleeve. "Little Gig." Chu Wanning turned around. It was the little Gongzi who looked just like him. He said in a small, childish voice, "Little Gig, Papa said if you two don't have anywhere to stay, so if you don't mind, you can stay with us tonight." Chu Wanning and Moran looked at each other. Moran asked, "Is that really okay? Your papa is already so busy." "It's okay." The little guy grinned guilelessly, "There are lots of people with nowhere to go staying with us already, we're all living together. Papa keeps the ghosts away at night, so we don't have to be scared." He spoke with little pauses, not yet used to linking so many words together, but the open sincerity was heartwarming. Moran said, "Okay, we'll be imposing on you tonight then." "Thank you, little Diddy." "Hee, no worries, no worries." Watching him bounce away, Moran tugged on Chu Wanning's hand. "Hey, really, I gotta say something." "I know what you want to say, so shut it." "Ha ha ha, you read my mind again." Moran ruffled his hair, grinning, "Once we get back to Shizun Peak, I really got to ask Shizun about this. The two of you, one looks like the dad, one looks like the son, there's no way you guys aren't related to Governor Chu Wanning, and so what, even if we do turn out to be related?" Chu Wanning looked mildly toward the father and son beneath the tree, then said without any expression, "It's all in the past anyway. They're all dead already." Then he turned and walked away. Moran stood rooted in place for a while before running after him, muttering, "Oi, aren't you a little too young to be so despondent? Even if they're dead, they're still your ancestors. If I was you, I'd definitely put up a shrine for them, with a statue, 9 feet tall, all gold, decked out in jewelry, and burn incense for them every year. I'm counting on my ancestors for protection, you know." Hey, what are you walking so fast for?" While walking around the city, they noticed that every family was gathering straw and making fake straw men. Upon asking about it, they were told that it was something Chu Sungongzi had asked for. Everyone in the city, the young and the elderly alike, had to have a matching straw man in which to put a talisman with a drop of the person's blood, to substitute as a fake puppet. It was the same idea as tossing meat-stuffed mantis into the river as offerings to a river deity that demanded human heads. Some ghosts and deities were simply and fundamentally not that smart. Any little trick could fool them, like that ghost mistress from before, with nothing but mud rattling around between the ears. It seemed that Chusun had arranged for at least 2 layers of precautions for the citizens. The first was the spirit-quenching talismans, so that they won't be discovered by the ghosts while running away. And the second was the straw puppets, which act as decoys to buy some time for their escape, so that the ghosts won't immediately notice everyone in the city suddenly gone and fly into a rage. But this only made the haze in their hearts even heavier. Just how did such a carefully crafted plan end up falling through? They returned to the governor's residence filled with misgivings. It was already dark by then, and many families had brought bedding to stay the night inside the Shangqing barrier rather than returning to their homes. The governor kept his gates open at night, with only some guards patrolling the premises. By the time the two of them arrived, all the rooms of the residence were already filled, with at least 3 or 4 families huddled in each. There were people crowded everywhere, with hardly any room left to even stand. In the end, they could only find a corridor to rest in. There was no bedding, of course, so Moran patted the ground with some straw he had asked from the guards, picked Chu Wanning up and put him on the makeshift pallet. "You'll have to make do with this tonight," Chu Wanning said. "Looks comfortable enough." "Really?" Moran laughed. "I thought so too." He flopped down next to Chu Wanning and stretched, then folded his arms behind his head and stared up at the wooden beams of the ceiling above. "Shidi, take a look, those bird people aren't half bad at weaving illusions, huh? Even with the memories of a survivor as foundation, it's still really something for it to be so detailed that you can even see the texture of the wood on the ceiling." Chu Wanning said, "The feathered tribe are half immortal, after all. Even if they're not all powerful, they're still capable of some things that are beyond the abilities of mortals." "I guess so." Moran blinked, then rolled to face Chu Wanning, propping his head up. "I can't sleep." Chu Wanning glanced at him. "What do you want, a bedtime story?" He was being sarcastic, but Moran's face was thick as the city walls, laughing. "Yes please. I want the one about Dongyong and the 7 fairies." Chu Wanning hadn't expected him to take it seriously and was taken aback for a moment before turning away in a huff. "You wish. How old are you already, aren't you embarrassed?" Moran grinned. "It's only human to want the things we can't have, nothing to do with age. I never had anyone to tell me bedtime stories when I was small and I was always thinking about how nice it would be to have someone like that. But that person never showed up and then I grew up and stopped thinking about it. But, deep inside, I still want it." Chu Wanning: "You didn't have anyone to tell you bedtime stories either, did you?" Haha, so you don't actually know how the story of Dongyong and the 7 fairies goes, right?" Chu Wanning: "What's the point to those silly stories, anyway? Just admit you don't know it, don't just write it off as a silly story. Else you're gonna grow up into a boring person like my Shizun and everyone will avoid you." Chu Wanning angrily said, "Who cares if everyone avoids me? I'm going to sleep." And with that, he lay down and closed his eyes. Moran rolled around with laughter until he rolled over next to Chu Wanning. Staring at his little Shidi with his eyes closed, eyelashes long and dark, looking quite adorable, he couldn't help reaching out to pinch his cheek. "Are you already asleep?" "I'm already asleep." "Haha." Moran laughed. "Then you keep sleeping, and I'll tell you a bedtime story." "You know bedtime stories?" "Yup, just like how you can sleep talk." Chu Wanning stopped talking. Moran lay next to him on the straw bed, their heads mere inches away. He cackled for a bit, but seeing that his Shidi was pointedly ignoring him, he stopped being quite so boisterous after a while to look up at the ceiling instead, eyes still curved with mirth. The smell of the straw wafted over now and again, accompanied by the quiet sounds of night. "The story I'm about to tell you, I made it up myself. I envied those who had bedtime stories when I was young, but there was nothing for it, so every day I would tell myself stories while lying in bed. I'll tell you my favorite one, it's called Ox Eats Grass." End chapter. Dumb Husky and his white cat Shizun. Chapter 65. This venerable one's story is really bad. Having spoken to this point, Moran smiled again before he continued. "A long time ago, there was a small child." Chu Wanning's eyes were closed. "Wasn't it about an ox grazing? How come it's a kid?" "Let me finish." Moran smiled hummingly. "Once upon a time there was a small child who is very poor. He didn't have a dad or a mom, and was a child laborer in the household of a landlord. He had to wash dishes, wash clothes, wipe the floors, and had to take the ox grazing, too. The landlord's household gave him 3 pancakes to eat every day, and the child was very happy that he could fill his stomach. One day, he took the ox out to graze as always. On the road, they bumped into a mad dog and it bit the leg of the ox. Because of this, the landlord unsurprisingly gave him a round of beatings. After the beatings, the landlord made him go kill that mad dog to vent, otherwise he wouldn't let the child have his pancakes. The child was very scared and could only follow orders and brought that mad dog back after he beat it to death. However, when he came home, the landlord discovered that it turns out, the dog that bit the leg of their cattle was actually the beloved canine of the county master. Chu Wanning opened his eyes. Then what did they do? What else can they do? That dog was the county master's most favorite's pet, so the dog was used to having its way, using the might and power behind its back. Who knew it would get beaten to death so out of the blue just like that, and if the county master should find out, he wouldn't let it go so easily. So, the more the landlord thought about it, the angrier he became, so in the end, he still never gave the small child his pancakes. He even threatened, if the county master came looking for trouble, he would give the child out. What is this mess? So unreasonable. Chu Wanning said, I'm not listening to this anymore. There are a lot of things that aren't reasonable in the first place. Mo Ran laughed. It's a matter of who has the most money, whose fist is tougher, and whose position is higher. The next day, the county master indeed came knocking. The child was given away. But, since he really was too young, the county master didn't have the face to lock him up, so the child was flogged heavily for 10 times before he was let go. And that child ran away after he was let go, right? Chu Wanning asked. Haha, he didn't run away. Mo Ran replied, the kid still went back to the landlord's household, recovered from his injuries and went back to grazing the ox for them. Still getting 3 pancakes a day to eat? Isn't he angry? As long as his stomach is filled he won't be angry. Mo Ran said. A round of beatings is a round of beatings, after it's over, it's over. And things were peaceful for over a decade. Later, the ox herd boy grew up. He followed after those who were the same age as well as the landlord's son. One day, several esteemed guests came to the landlord's house, and the landlord's son saw one of the guests had brought a particularly beautiful agate snuff bottle. He loved it, so he stole it. That snuff bottle was an heirloom, extremely precious. The guest was quite panicked and looked all over the house for his possession. The landlord's son saw that he couldn't hide any more, so he stuffed the snuff bottle into that ox herd boy's hands and told him, if he dared tell the truth, then he will never receive any meals again and will die from starvation. Having listened to this point, Chu Wanning was utterly speechless. He thought inwardly, while Mo Ran had wandered the streets since he was young, having been orphaned, but at the very least he had grown up at an entertainment house, his mother a managing head, so even though it wasn't the happiest of days, it wasn't miserable either, so why were all the stories he made up so gloomy and sad? Mo Ran continued on, quite enjoying himself. The snuff bottle was soon found. For the sake of meals, that ox herd boy could only force himself to take the blame, and naturally, what followed was another round of vicious beatings. This time, they beat him so hard he couldn't get out of bed for 3 days. The landlord's son got away with it this time, so he secretly snuck a steamed bun stuffed with marinated pork to the ox herd boy. That kid wolfed down the food and stopped resenting this boy who harmed him. Since he's never tasted such delicacies before, as he held the bun, he kept saying to the landlord's son, thank you, thank you. I'm not listening anymore. This time, Chu Wanning really was aggravated. How can this stop his resentment? A steamed bun and all is forgiven? And thanking him too. What's there to thank? No, You're not listening carefully. Mo Ran innocently blinked his eyes. How am I not listening carefully? Mo Ran straightened his face. That was a steamed bun stuffed with marinated pork, I tell you. Chu Wanning. Haha, look at your face, you don't understand, do you? Usually, that child could only get his hands on a scrap or two of fatty meat during New Year's Eve. He had originally thought he was going to die never knowing what marinated pork was tasted like, so of course he'd thank the other party. Seeing his little Shidi was stumped speechless by his words, Mo Ran smiled exceedingly brilliantly and continued, either way, this incident passed just like that. He still collected his 3 pancakes, and passed day by day. One day. Now Chu Wanning had had an idea of the pattern of Mo Ran's tales. The moment one day appeared, there was never anything good. Sure enough, Mo Ran said, one day, the landlord's son committed another crime. This time, he behaved indecently towards a neighboring girl at the mill, and coincidentally, the unlucky ox herd boy bumped into the scene. And that child is going to take the blame again? Chu Wanning asked. Yeah. Mo Ran laughed, that's right. Congrats, congrats, you know how to tell stories now too. I'm going to sleep. Don't, I'm almost done with the story. Mo Ran said, this is my first time tell someone a story, so give me some face, will you? Chu Wanning. This time, the ox herd boy must take the blame. Because, that girl couldn't take the shame and committed suicide by way of bashing her head into the wall. But the ox herd boy wasn't dumb. A life for a life, there was no way he was going to give up his life for the landlord's son's sake. Mo Ran said, he wouldn't agree to it, so the landlord's son locked him and the dead girl inside the mill, and ran off to report it to the authorities. This ox herd boy has got a history. When he was young he randomly beat the county master's dog to death, then later he stole a guest's snuff bottle, and this time, he sexually harassed a common girl. Naturally, his crimes could not be absolved. No one was willing to listen to him explain himself. He was caught red-handed with all the evidence, so he was arrested. Chu Wanning widened his eyes, and then, he stayed in jail for a few months. When autumn came, he was sentenced to the death penalty, to be sent to the execution platform outside the city. As he followed along the execution troop winding around the fields, he suddenly saw someone was butchering an ox not far in the distance. He could tell with just a glance, that ox was the one he had taken to graze since he was young, but now that it was old, it didn't have the energy to plow the fields anymore. But that ox had to graze grass. If it only ate but didn't do any labor, why would the landlord want to keep it? It helped them plow a lifetime's worth of fields, but in the end, they were going to butcher it, eat its meat. Even as he told such a cruel thing, Mo Ran wasn't sad and smiled, but that ox herd boy had grown up riding on the back of that ox, had told it many of his secrets, fed it hay, hugged its neck and cried when he was wronged, and took it for his only family in this world. So, he knelt down and begged the executioner to let him go bid farewell to that ox. Of course the executioner didn't believe there'd be any feelings between man and beasts, so he thought the boy was only trying to play tricks and didn't allow it. And then that ox herd boy was hung to death. The ox was butchered. Hot blood flowed all over the ground, and those who gathered to watch the show dispersed. That night, the landlord's household ate beef, but the beef was old and kept getting stuck between their teeth. They had a bit, didn't like it, and dumped everything. Chu Wanning. Mo Ran flipped over, smiled happily at him, there it's done. How was it? Get out. Chu Wanning said. Hey, the first time I made this up for myself, I cried. Your heart is so cold, not even a drop of tear. It's you who told it so badly. Mo Ran exclaimed twice, put his arm over his little Shidi's shoulder and caressed his hair, well that can't be helped. Your Shizun is only so talented. Alright, the story's done. Let's sleep. Chu Wanning didn't acknowledge him, but after a long time, he suddenly asked, Mo Ran. Call me Shizun. Why is the story called Ox Eats Grass? Because like people, an ox has to eat. For the sake of eating, a lot of work has to be done. If one day you can't work anymore, then no one cares if you're alive or dead. Chu Wanning stopped talking again. The whisperings in the yard were the small voices of those seeking refuge, and once in a while, there'd be an ominous cry or two from ghosts and demons coming from outside the barrier. Mo Ran. Yeah, so cheeky. Call me Shizun. Chu Wanning ignored him and only asked, does that child really exist? No. Mo Ran was quiet for a moment, then suddenly smiled, his dimples deep and good-looking. He rolled the little boy into his arms and said warmly, of course it's made up to play with you. Be good. Sleep. Yet unexpectedly, it hadn't been long before there was suddenly commotion in the yard. Someone was shouting angrily, call for the gongzi. The gongzi is busy. Who has the time to mind your business? Clean that corpse out? Don't you know that the ones with blue spots will rise? Are you trying to kill us all? This voice was like thunder in the middle of a dark night, and the moment rising corpse was mentioned, everyone blew up. All of a sudden, everyone who was asleep sat up, and looked to where the commotion was. Mo Ran blocked in front of his little Shidi and threw a glance, frowning as he spoke in a low voice, It's that person from noon earlier. The one who was kneeling and being scolded was indeed that youth named Xiao Man from noon earlier that day. He was still wearing the tight suit from during the day, but his spirit and aura were completely different. It was as if his entire person was emptied out, only hugging tightly onto the dead body of his foster father. That corpse's nails had grown significantly, the very sign of a corpse rising. When the others saw, they all backed away. The governor's administrator was scolding him sharply. Your dad was my colleague, I feel bad about him being killed, too. But so what? You were the one who cried hunger last night, so he went out to find food for you. You were the one who caused your dad to die, so are you going to cause us all to die now? Xiao Man was kneeling on the ground, his hair completely disheveled, his eyes red, and no, I'm not, Daddy. Please, I beg you, let me see the gongzi. The gongzi has a way for Dad's corpse not to rise. I want to bury Dad properly. Please, I beg you all not to, don't dismember him. Sob. By the time he uttered the word dismember, he was already sobbing really hard. He buried his face in his palms, wiping messily, his lips trembling. Please, I beg you all, let me wait until the gongzi is back. It's going to be midnight soon, the gongzi is out, so how can he possibly care for your business? You know that normal corpses can still be purified, but your dad's bluing spots and nails have already changed, so how can he possibly hold out until the gongzi is back? No. He can, Uncle Lu. I'm begging you, I'll do anything for you, I'll think of a way to repay you after, please, I beg you, don't touch my daddy, beg, I beg you. Seeing him beg like this, that middle-aged administrator let out a long sigh, the rims of his eyes also turning red, but still he replied, Sigh, do you know, you're asking for all of our lives here, guards. No. Don't. But it was already too late. No one was willing to help him. Anyone knew that if this corpse was kept, then when midnight comes it would for sure turn into a ferocious spirit. The corpse of Xiao Man's foster father was forcibly dragged away, to be dismembered outside. Xiao Man was held back by several people on his left and right, and his bitter tears flowed viciously, sullying his entire face, and beast-like howls escaped his lips. But in the end, he was still half pulled, half dragged away into the distance. Once this storm had passed, the yard returned to its peaceful quiet after some muttered whispers. Chu Wanning, however, did not fall back asleep. He hung his head pensively. Mo Ran side-gazed at his little Shidi. What are you thinking about? This person lost his close family bitterly and did such a foolish thing. That his foster father's body was overtaken, of course he'd blame the others. I have an uncertain guess. I'm wondering, could Linan City's failed migration because of him? Mo Ran replied without missing a beat, I thought about this too. Chu Wanning shook his head, but it's too early to tell, we can't make any conclusive claims. Let's keep a close eye on him first. End chapter. Dumb Husky and his white cat Shizun. Chapter 66. This venerable one sees the heavenly rift for the first time. Day 2. Nothing unusual had happened. Chu Sun sent guards to tally the number of straw men in the city, make sure that it matches the number of people, while the people busied themselves packing what few possessions they had. Just one more night, and then they will leave first thing in the morning to take refuge at Putuo according to Chu Sun's plan. Mo Ran sat by the gate of the governor's residence, watching the people come and go. He sighed, Chu Sun's plan is watertight, without someone leaking the information, the average ghost wouldn't have the brains to figure out that it's all decoy puppets left in the city. Someone must have told, then. Shidi, what do you think? No response. Shidi. Mo Ran turned around. Without him noticing, his little Shidi had wandered off to watch a cavalry of riders getting ready, and in his place was Chu Gong's son, sitting with his cheeks in hand. Dgege. Mo Ran almost jumped at his sudden appearance. What is it? The little boy pointed at an old paulownia tree to the side with a kite dangling from a high branch, articulating with some difficulty, Mama gave it to me, it got stuck, can't reach. Dgege, help me. No problem, no problem. Mo Ran leapt nimbly to the top of the tree using light footwork, retrieved the butterfly-shaped kite and landed steadily back on the ground, smiling as he gave it back. Here you go, don't lose it again, okay. The little boy nodded. Mo Ran watched him wandering around all alone for a bit, thinking about how Chu Sun probably doesn't have the time to look after his son, so he asked, where's your mom? It's a bit messy here, I'll take you to your mom. Mama? Mama is at the mountains in the back. Mo Ran, mystified, what's she doing in the mountains? Sleeping. The little boy looked at him guilelessly and answered in a soft voice. Mama's always sleeping there. Papa takes me to see her when the flowers bloom in the spring. Ah! Mo Ran uttered quietly, at a loss for words. But the little boy didn't mind, he was still too young to understand what death meant. He played happily with the kite in his hands for a bit, then looked up at Mo Ran and shuffled over, saying in a whisper, Gag, thank you, I'll give you. I have something to give you. He dug around in his pocket as he spoke, and finally dug out a small, half piece of pastry wrapped in reed leaf. No one in the city had enough to eat these days, it was a mystery how the little boy managed to save a piece of pastry. He broke it in half, and handed the smaller piece to Mo Ran. Gag, for you. Shh, don't tell anyone else, I don't have any more. Mo Ran was just about to accept it when the little boy suddenly changed his mind and took the smaller piece back, offering him the bigger half instead. It's really yummy, there's sweet bean paste inside. The small act made Mo Ran's heart feel all warm and fuzzy. He was used to being treated poorly, but didn't quite know how to respond to kindness. He reached out and took the sweet with a mumbled thanks. The little boy seemed quite pleased, grinning brightly, the curve of his dark eyelashes filled with warmth and kindness. Mo Ran couldn't bear to eat the flour cake, so he wrapped it up using a leaf from the paulownia tree and tucked it into his robes. He was going to talk some more with the little boy, but he was a young child with a young child's attention span after all, and had already bounced away into the distance. Chu Wanning came back around then, only to see Mo Ran standing there staring off into space. He raised an eyebrow, what's up? Moran watched the little boy disappear into the distance, sighing, I was just thinking, all these people. How come they all had to die? Night descended. Dark clouds covered the skies, with occasional bolts of lightning ripping through the heavens, and as the night grew deeper, a terrible gale howled amidst a torrential downpour. Rain and its accompanying yin energy enhanced the powers of ghosts and other fiends. Shizun gathered all the survivors of Linen near the residence and bid them stay inside the Shangqing barrier at all times. Due to the rain, many of the areas that could usually make do as a resting place no longer served. Moran was keeping an eye on Xiao Man, but then more and more people crowded inside to take shelter from the rain and Xiao Man ducked out of view. Moran muttered, damn. Chu Wanning was small, and immediately said, I'll go after him. Saying that, he dove into the crowd and disappeared in no time. He returned after a while with an irate expression, he got away. Outside the barrier. MN. Moran fell silent, looking at the downpour outside and the people bustling to and fro. All of it was only an illusion of things that had already come to pass 200 years ago. But he suddenly felt so wretched. The people around him had such hope on their faces, believing that Shizun will take them away from this ghost-infested hell to go to Putuo just as soon as dawn breaks. In the pouring rain, guards dressed in white and red were putting their everything into making the final preparations so that they will be ready to move at daybreak. None of them knew how little time they had left. The night grew later still, and the noise died down as people dozed off, leaning against each other. But Chu Wanning and Moran were wide awake. Their task was to wait for the Ghost King to appear and to kill him. Since Xiao Man had already left the barrier, the turning point must be tonight. Moran turned to glance at Chu Wanning, why don't you get some rest, I'll wake you if anything happens. Chu Wanning, I'm not sleepy. Moran stroked his hair, then eat something? We haven't eaten since coming here. I'm, looking at the pastry Moran took out, the words not hungry got replaced by a gulp. Moran handed it over. Here you go. Chu Wanning accepted the sweet and broke it in half, giving the bigger half back to Moran and keeping the smaller portion for himself. Moran stared blankly at him, face unreadable. Chu Wanning took a bite, uttered a questioning then asked, is this from the peach blossoms spring? The flavor is a bit different from the ones before. How so? It tastes of osmanthus flowers. Moran forced a smile, oh. Shizun's son gave it to me, it's probably linen flavored. It is indeed linen flavored. Chu Wanning was opening his mouth to take another bite when he froze abruptly as if suddenly having realized something, and all the color drained from his face. That's not right. Chu Wanning shot to his feet, eyes wide and expression ghastly. Moran hadn't the slightest idea what the problem was, what's not right. Chu Wanning didn't answer, instead walking into the courtyard and looking around in the pouring rain before picking up a sharp rock and cutting firmly into his own arm, blood gushed out instantly. Moran grabbed him in a hurry, are you crazy? Moran stared at the blood trickling down his arm for a while before his head snapped up, eyes intense. Have you still not caught on? He said harshly, someone's trying to harm us. Blood ran down his arm non-stop, crimson diluted by the rain. Chu Wanning's face was pale in the deluge, his dark brows knitted tightly together, drenched through and through in the ceaseless downpour. Thunder rumbled and lightning split the skies, harsh light turning night into day for an instant. The sudden clap of thunder jolted Moran into realization. He subconsciously took a step back. He knew what wasn't right. Nothing in an illusion was real, however realistic it might seem. It should be impossible for a pastry to have any taste, for a weapon to actually cause an injury. In short, it should be impossible for anything within the illusion to affect them. Someone actualized the illusion. Chu Wanning said quietly. Actualizing an illusion, also known as illusion manifestation, was no easy task. The ones most skilled in this technique were those of the Gaiyu sect, whose motto was medicine for the people, divine physician for the heart, the latter half referring to the fact that some among them specialize in the art of actualizing illusions. Many people are unable to accept the passing of a loved one. Through illusion manifestation, the dead can yet accompany the living. However, such manifested illusions were extremely difficult, so generally speaking, only short, individual scenes could be created, such as sharing a drink or taking a nap together, just one thing at most. But with the extensive and continuous nature of this illusion constructed by the feathered tribe, alongside the large variety of happenings, even Guy Yuye's own sect leader might not be able to manifest it all. Mo Ran immediately thought of someone. Could it be that fake Gushin from Jinchinj Lake? But before he could think on it further, a strange sound burst forth from the skies above. The dozing people jolted awake like startled birds, looking around with wide eyes before finally looking up. It was deathly silent for a moment, then screams erupted like the explosion of water droplets in boiling oil. Everyone tried to flee every which way, only to discover there was nowhere to go, and screams came from all directions. There was a fracture in the sky and an enormous, blood-red ghost eye was staring unervingly from right above. The eye was so close it was practically up against the barrier. A harsh, garbled voice thundered, "Chu Sun, how very bold of you, a mere mortal daring to deceive this venerable one." Mo Ran muttered, "Ghost King." There were 9 kings in the ghost realm, some far stronger than others. The one before them now had yet to show himself, so there was no way to tell which one he was. That eyeball alone loomed in the sky, dripping with blood as it stared at the building below. Such arrogance, absurd. Pathetic mortal, you want to save them? I might not have wiped out the city before, but since you wish to go against me, I'll kill every single one of you. None shall be spared. With a shrill shriek, a blinding red light burst forth from the ghost eye, aimed directly at the barrier. Red clashed against gold, and for an instant all the other colors of the world ceased to be. The force of the impact sent debris flying into the howling gales and relentless rain, the branches of the trees in the courtyard snapping one after another. The people inside the barrier were hysterical, wailing as they huddled together. The Shangqing barrier withstood the first hit, but another flash of red followed immediately after, striking the same spot. The barrier held out, but a crack appeared. How arrogant, insufferable! The red light struck again and again, impacts thundering and sparks flying. Seeing the barrier on the edge of collapse, Chu Wanning's blood ran cold. Now that the illusion has been actualized, an attack in here would be no different from one in the real world. If that attack were to land, both Mo Ran and himself might die here. Golden light gathered at his fingertips. This would surely blow his cover, but the situation being what it was, there was no other choice. He was just about to summon Tianwen and get it over with when a resplendent bolt of light flew across the sky like an arrow, headed directly for the epicenter of the cracks in the barrier. The crowd turned to see Chu Sun standing on a tall roof. He cradled a phoenix harp, fingertips dancing across its strings and sending bolts of light sweeping forth to gather at the barrier, each sound sharp and powerful as the rupturing of metal, instantly reinforcing the Shangqing barrier that was on the verge of failing. Gongzi is here. Gongzi! The people below exclaimed one after another, some even crying with joy. Chu Sun held his own against the eye of the Ghost King, the two already having exchanged 100 moves in an instant, the Ghost King completely unable to encroach on the barrier. The cold voice rang even more menacingly across the sky. Chu Sun, with your skills, you could have easily escaped by yourself. Why do you insist on meddling in unrelated matters and making an enemy of the ghost realm? Your Majesty wishes harm upon my citizens, how could anything be less unrelated to me? Ridiculous. We ghosts feed on the souls of the living, there is no difference between us eating souls and you eating meat. You will understand soon enough, once you're dead. Chu Sun didn't miss a beat, the notes of the harp never pausing. Then we will just have to see if your Majesty can take this head on my shoulders. As he spoke, the chords beneath his fingers rose to a crescendo until a brilliant light pierced through the heavens right into that bloody eye in the sky. Ah! The terrifying scream shook the very ground they stood on. Fetid blood sprayed out from where the eye had been burned by Chusun's spell, the downpour of blood mixing with the shrill shrieks. In his anger, the Ghost King unleashed a blade of light many times stronger than those before, striking out amidst the rain of blood. Chusun moved to block, but this attack was unlike the others, and the force of the impact forced him back several steps, the notes of his harp stuttering. Gongzi! Crack! There's a crack! The barrier is going to break! Mama mama! The crowd panicked, those with families huddled together crying, those without cowered in corners trembling. Chusun grit his teeth, fire in his eyes, refusing to give up so easily. Just as he was locked in stalemate with the Ghost King, lights flared to life on either side of him. He glanced to the side to see Mo Ran and Chu Wanning standing with him, scarlet and golden light flowing steadily into his own, once again sealing the barrier. A terrifying roar came from above. The ghost eye disappeared. The three of them descended to the ground. The sky rained rotten blood for a while longer before finally returning to clear water. Chu Sun, face pale, bowed to Mo Ran and Chu Wanning, "Many thanks for your help." "Don't mention it." Mo Ran waved his hands, "Go get some rest, you look terrible." Chu Sun nodded, he had indeed burned through too much of his reserves, so Mo Ran supported him to the corridor. The people that were in disarray only a moment ago, seeing that Chu Gongzi had repaired the barrier and saved them, all gathered in gratitude, offering him water and draping clothing over his shoulders. Someone said, "Chu Gongzi, you're all drenched, please go warm yourself by the fire." Chu Sun thanked them one by one, but was really too exhausted to move and so could only turn down that person's invitation. Undaunted, the people carried branches over and made a bonfire next to him instead. Things gradually quieted down, save for the crackling of the fire. Suddenly, someone asked, "Gongzi, we took so many precautions, but the Ghost King still somehow saw through it all. Ai, what should we do?" Yeah. How did they know we were going to leave?" Gongzi said, "These ghosts can't tell the puppets apart from real people, so how did this happen? Could it be?" The person's voice died down and he snuck a glance toward Chu Sun, clearly wanting to say that maybe Chu Sun was wrong, maybe he messed something up somewhere. The white-attired guards saw that glance, and one of them immediately rebuked with furrowed brows, "What are you trying to say?" "It's obviously because someone couldn't keep their trap shut and leaked the plan to the Ghost King." The person mumbled, "Who would tattle to the ghosts though? It's not like there's anything to be gained from that," and then, seeing all the angry glares directed his way, he stopped talking, disgruntled. A while passed in silence before someone else asked, "Gongzi, that damn ghost definitely won't just leave it at that, what should we do?" Chu Sun, exhausted, didn't open his eyes, but his voice was gentle still, "We just have to hold out until dawn and then be on our way, there's nothing they can do in the daylight. But we have so many people, the elderly, the young, and some injured too, can we make it to Putuo Mountain in one day?" Chu Sun, softly, "Don't worry about that. Get some rest. Just focus on the journey tomorrow, I'll take care of the rest." Chu Gongzi had always protected them, since he said so, everyone listened and did as told. A little kid came over holding a piece of sesame candy and offered it to Chu Sun. Chu Sun opened his eyes slightly and pat his head with a smile, and was just about to say something when a guard ran over in a panic, shouting, "Gongzi! Gongzi, it's terrible. What happened?" The little Gongzi Xiao Man outside the Cheng Huang temple. The guard was in too much shock to even speak a complete sentence, he stammered some more, then abruptly fell to his knees and started crying miserably. Chu Sun shot to his feet, what little color remaining on his face draining completely as he rushed into the rain. End chapter.